Hi everybody, my name is Arthur and welcome to another PixelPAD tutorial. We are coding our space shooter game. Last class we added the score on the screen, right? So we now can see the score on the screen. We don't have to keep looking at the console window anymore. And we also added a background to our game, and our game looks way better now, right? So today we're gonna be adding a power-up to our game, and how this power-up is gonna work. So the power-up will spawn on the top of the screen like an enemy does, and will come down as an enemy does, but when we collide with this power-up, we will collect it, and it will make our shootings be stronger. So we can, instead of shooting just one laser like this, we'll be shooting 3 lasers. So 1 in the middle and 2 more on the sides. So that will make our range bigger, because we can shoot on a bigger area, right? And we will have 3 bullets at the same time. But that will stay on us only for some seconds, let's say 5 seconds maybe, and then later it will disappear. It will go back to the normal shooting, right? So for us to start doing this, let's go ahead and add a sprite so we can use as our power-up collectible, right? The power-up item that will drop for us. And we have a very good sprite to use here. If I go here on my sprite, on my asset store, and I look here on the pages, I should be able to find, where is the one that I'm looking for? Where is the one? This one, bolt power-up. This one is a good power-up. It looks good, and it represents attack, right? So I can select asset, and I will call this asset power up. This is my image, right? So I'm calling power up, and as anything else we're gonna add inside our game, we need a class for that. So I'll click on this class, and I'll name this class power up with uppercase P this time, because this is a class, right? Press OK, and now I have my power up class here. So now we can enter on the power up class, and as we do with all the other classes, or most of them, just the spawner doesn't have one, but we give a sprite to the class, right? So let's give a sprite to the power up class. So we can say self.sprite equals sprite underscore nil, and the name of the sprite. So the sprite I'm gonna use now is the power up dot png. Okay, so we have a class power up that has a sprite. So let's go on the game here, and on the game, what I'll do, I'll just create the power up here on the start tab for us, so we can actually see the power up in game and how it's behaving, so it's easier for us to code it. So we can say here game.powerup is equals a new object from the class power up. So let's press play and see our power up. This is gonna be our power up inside the game, but it's not moving yet, and we cannot yet collect it. And it also has to be spawned on the top of the screen. So like, there are many steps we have to do yet, right? So let's start with the power up movement. Let's start making it move down first. It's gonna move like an enemy does. So let's go on the power up class, and on the loop tab, if we want to move down, we have to change the y-axis, right? So we say self.y equals self.y, and as we are moving down, we use minus. So -1, let's see, press play, and my power-up is moving down now. And I want it to be a bit faster actually, because if it's placed on the top of the screen, it would just take too long to get to the bottom. So maybe 3. Yeah, I think 3 looks good. We have to be a bit faster to collect it. That should be nice. Okay, 3 is a good number. So my power-up's moving down, but now I want my player to be able to collect the power-up. So how can I do that? So collect something Let's think on the logic of collect something. Well, my power-up's moving, right? Whenever my power-up collides with my player, my power-up will disappear, right? That's the colliding, that's the collecting logic. And we know how to do this collecting logic because that's basically a collision check, right? So here on the power-up loop, I can keep checking if collision underscore check. So I'm checking for collisions between myself and the class player. So if my power-up has collided with the player, what it has to do, it has to destroy itself. So destroy self. Now when I press play, you can see that my power-up moves down, and once it touches my player, it disappears. So my player collected the power-up, right? But we're still not shooting more bullets. We have to add some more code for that. So now let's go to the player class. So the player has to know if it has a power-up or not, if it can use a power-up or not, right? So it will either be yes or no. I can use a power-up, true or false. So to do that, we are gonna create a variable inside the player. And this variable we can call self.powerup. So this variable powerup inside my player will mean that I have collected the powerup. So this will start with false. And this is uppercase F, right? False. So powerup equals false. That means that I don't have a powerup, right? And on my powerup class, on the loop tab again, once my powerup collides with my player, my powerup will disappear. But before it disappears, I want it to go to my game.player. So go inside my player and tell it that it now has a powerup. So I can say that the powerup variable inside my player, inside the game, will now be true. So I'm telling my player once I collect the power-up, I'm telling my player, hey, now you have a power-up, you can use that. So this variable here inside my player will become true once I collide with the power-up. That's good, right? We're gonna use this power-up variable here somewhere else to make my player be able to shoot more bullets. So let's go ahead here on the loop tab, and you can see this code here on my player loop, right? That says if key was pressed space. So if I press the space key, I create a bullet, and my bullet will be in the same position as my player, right? But if I have collected a power up, I want my player to spawn not one bullet, but 3 bullets, right? So inside this if here, if I press space, I create a bullet. And then after I create this bullet, I want to check again if my self.powerup is equals true. So why am I using 2 equals here? So when we use one equal, bullet equals object new bullet, bullet x equals self.x, bullet y equals self.y, one equal means assigning. So I'm assigning this value to this variable. So whatever the value was here before, now will be this one here. But when we use 2 equals, this is actually a question. So we are asking if my self.powerup is equals true. And if that's true, so if it is equals true, that means that I have collected the powerup. And if I have collected the powerup, what I want to do is I want to create 2 more bullets beside this one here that was already created before, right? So the process is the same. So I can say here, for example, that my bullet, I'll call this one bullet L for the left. So bullet L will be equals object underscore new and the class bullet, right? And I can use here again bullet L dot X will be equals self dot X, but now I want my bullet L to be on the left side of this bullet here. So I just want to bring this to the left. I don't want it to be on the same position exactly as my player on the X axis. I want it to be a little bit to the left, so I'll take like 30 pixels from this position. Maybe 30 is too much. Let's try 20. And for the bullet L.Y, we can have the same Y position. That's not a problem. Self.Y, right? And this is our bullet left. So let's try. I press play. I can shoot one bullet, but when I collect the power up, now I can shoot two bullets, which is cool. You can see that one leaves from the middle of my player and the other one from the left. That is this bullet L here. And I thought 20 would be a good number, but actually I think we need more spacing there. So we're just gonna use 50 here. Again, this is my my opinion about my bullets. You can choose whatever number you feel like, right? So let me see now. One bullet, two bullets. Maybe 50 is too much. Okay, I'll use 40 then. That's my last number. All right, and we also need to create the bullet right? So this is the bullet left, and bullet R is object underscore new bullet. So my bullet R is a new object from the class bullet, and bullet R dot X will be equals my own X, but now instead of minus 40, I'll use plus 40 because I want it to go to the right. And for the Y, we can use the same again. So bullet R dot Y equals self dot Y. Okay, and now you can see that if I press play, I collect my power up, and now I shoot 3 bullets instead of just 1, right? All right, that's cool. But will my player shoot 3 bullets forever now? No, we have to have a timer now to control how long can my player shoot bullets for. I mean, with the power up, right? How long my player can have the power up for. So that's pretty easy to control, right? So I'll stop this here, and I will go on my Start tab. And here I can say self.power_up_timer. So this will be the timer that will control how long we can use our power up for. And this will start with 0, right? And I need a new variable here to tell my player for how long it can have this power up. So I can say here time to use power up. That's a long variable, but it's very descriptive. We know what is it doing. So the time to use power up is how long our player can use the power up for. So 60 is 1 second, right? So I want my player to use that power up, let's say for 5 seconds. So I would say here 300. So you can just also say, for example, 60 times and the number of seconds you want it to be. So if you wanted 5 seconds, you can say 60 times 5. 60 times 5 is 300, right? So this is an easier way for you to control how many seconds you want. But I will use 300 because that's the same thing, right? So how is this gonna work? You know that on the spawner, we have a timer 60 and this timer keeps going down. And every time it reaches 0, it spawns an enemy. But for us on the player, we have the timer, and our timer will keep going up. And once it reaches 300, or the time to use power up, we have to reset this power up timer back to 0 and reset the power up to false. So now we cannot use the power up anymore, and the timer is resetted to 0. For the next time we collect a power up, the power is ready to go. The timer is ready to go. All right, so here on the loop tab, we can control that by saying here on the bottom, so we have to keep increasing this variable here, self.powerUpTimer. So I can say here self.powerUpTimer will be equals self.powerUpTimer plus 1. So I'm always increasing my power up timer in 1. However, I just want to increase that power up timer if my power up is true. If my power up is false, if I don't have a power up, there's no reason for me to keep increasing this power up timer, right? Because this is to control how long I can use my power up for. So I just want to do that. So add a new line here before that line, because I just want to do that if self.powerUp is equals true. And I have to give some spacing here to indent this line and put it inside this if. So I use the tab on my keyboard, I press it once, and now it's inside this if. That means that this will only happen if this thing here is true, if this condition is true. So if I have a power up, this true here has to be uppercase. So if I have a power up, it will start counting my timer. And if my self.powerUpTimer is equals, so if my power up timer has reached the time to use the power up, so if my power up timer is equals self.time to use power up, that means that we have used the power up for the time we could. So we should reset the power up to false. First thing, self.powerUp equals false. And we have to reset the power up timer to 0. So I can say self.powerUpTimer equals 0. So when I have a power up, this variable here will be true. So it will start increasing my power up timer in 1. When my power up timer is the same of my time to use power up, so that means when have passed 5 seconds, so my power up timer will be 300 and my time to use power up is 300. So after 5 seconds, I will reset my power up back to false, and I will reset my power up timer back to false. So you can see that we don't change the time to use power up, right? This will never change. We will always have the same time to use the power up. So if you want to change how long your player can use the power up for, you just have to change this number here. If you want it to last longer, you can put a bigger number here. If you want it to last less, you can put a smaller number here. All right, so let's check it now to see if it's working. I'll press play. I collect the power up, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh wow, that was very good actually. I could count exactly how it should be. Okay, but yeah, you could see that we had 5 seconds, and our player started shooting again on the regular way, right? So 5, and it go back to the normal. So the only thing now that we have to do is we have to create a timer to keep spawning the power up for us, because now we are creating the power up here on the game start, and we don't want that. We don't want to have a power up once we start the game on the middle of the screen, and that's all. So first I will take this code out of here. I don't want to create my power up once I press play my game. But instead, we're gonna do something very similar we did on the spawner to keep spawning enemies for us. And we can actually do it here inside the spawner, because this is a spawner, right? It spawns enemies, but it can also spawn a power-up. So yeah, let's do it inside here, so then we don't have a lot of random code here on the game. So the spawner will keep spawning stuff for us, and we need a timer to keep spawning a power-up. And I know that this timer here is responsible for spawning the enemies, so I don't want to mess up with this timer. So let's create another timer, and I'll call this timer self.powerUp power up timer, and this will be equals to 60 as well. So this will be the first time a power up will be spawned for us in our game, right? So I could even change this. Let me put here instead a 120. So this is 2 seconds. So once I play my game, a enemy will be spawned after 1 second, and after 2 seconds I have my first power up being created and spawned for us, right? So here on the loop tab, we have to do basically the same we did with the other timer. So first we keep reducing the timer, so power up timer equals self.power up timer minus 1, and we have to check if the power up timer here is 0. So self.power up timer, we're checking if self.power up timer equals 0. Then, so if the timer has reached 0, we want to spawn a power up. So I can say power up equals new object from the class power up. And I have to reset my power up timer, but I don't want my timer to be reset again to 120. I want it to be random, and I'll also use random for the enemy as well, because I don't want my enemy to be spawning every 1 second, because that's too easy to predict when the next enemy will be spawned, right? And you can also already see here that when I start my game, we start with no power-ups, but then after 2 seconds my first power-up is created, but my power-up's being created right in the middle, so we also have to fix that, right? But we are going to do that on the next video, so for now just make sure you save your game. We have the power-up being created after 2 seconds. We can collect that and use the power-up for 5 seconds. After that my shooting style go back to the normal style, and that's it. Next class we're going to be finishing the power-up and adding a screen for our main menu and a screen for the game end. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.